Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 14 of Python for DevOps series and I am back with yet another real-time Python project. Unlike every class where I start with the theory part, in today's video, let me show you the demo first so that you understand what this project is about. It's a very interesting project. And after that, I am going to explain you the theory part, how to write the Python programming for it, and step by step, how to approach to the final solution. So you all know that this is the GitHub repository that we are maintaining for the Python for DevOps series. Similarly, you will have a lot of such GitHub repositories in your organization where you have to manage them as a DevOps engineer. Let's say there is a request from a development team where they have asked you that Abhishek, we have bunch of issues here created by the QE folks. Let's say this particular issue. And what developer wants is once they look into this particular issue, if they feel that this is a genuine issue where, if the developer feels that, okay, QE has reported a proper genuine bug, then, instead of they manually going into the Jira portal. So we have a Jira portal here today. So this is the Jira portal. Let me increase the font. So instead of they manually going to this particular Jira portal, and going to the backlog, they have to log in, they have to go to the backlog and then create a ticket in the backlog. So instead of doing all this activity manually, because they have to triage or they have to, debug a lot of issues that are reported by QE each and every day. So they want you to automate where they will just come to the issue, and if they feel this is a valid bug, they will just type /Jira or anything that you want to. You can also replace this with create a Jira for me, or the usual practice is they can come here and comment /Jira, and as soon as they click on the comment button, you should see a Jira that is created for them so that they can track the work, or after 10 days they understand how many issues they have to work on. So I can show you by refreshing the screen. Right now there is nothing here, right? And as soon as you click on the enter button, where is this? Perfect. Click on the comment. You will notice a Jira is created on this particular board, right? So Jira is created on the board where I have randomly entered few details, main order flow broken. You can add anything where I'll show you. We can create description, we can assign it to particular users, everything through automation. So what did I do? The request from the developer, I have taken that request and I said, okay, I'll automate this for you. And for that particular thing, what I have done is on this particular GitHub repository, I have configured a webhook. So if you see here, if we go to the settings of this repository, right? As you go to the settings of this repository, if you scroll down, you will notice a section called webhook. And this is the webhook that I've created. So if I edit this, you see here the EC2 instance URL where I have hosted a Python application, right? We will learn how to write this application and what this application is doing. So it is on an EC2 instance and it is running on a particular port. So I can show you the application as well. So see here, this is the application that is running. And what this application is doing is it is interacting with the APIs of Jira and it is creating the ticket automatically, right? So what are the things that we have to learn? Let's move to the whiteboard and try to understand the problem statement and how to fix this particular or how to provide this particular solution in a step-by-step way, right? So let's move to our whiteboard. Now, let me start explaining you. I hope you all understood what is this project about on a very high level. And I hope that it generated an interest in you people so that you can also implement it on your Jira board. So the problem statement, let's start understanding with it. So as a DevOps engineer, what is the problem statement that is given to you? by a development team. So the problem statement for them is that, so there are a lot of QE engineers, right? Or anyone in the organization, it can be QE or devs. So when they notice a bug in the application, okay, while testing an application, or some of they come across a bug in the application, so they will create issue on the GitHub repository. Okay. So developer or QE people, they have created issue on the GitHub repository. And definitely, this issue, whoever creates an issue, that should not be considered as an issue. They might have some configuration mistakes, or they did not understand the application workflow properly. So there will be development team in your organization, right? So one of the developers, once in a week or once in 2 days, what this developer does is, this developer goes to the GitHub repository, as I have gone through this GitHub repository, right? So I have created this GitHub repository, and some 5 people who are one of the subscribers who are watching this particular video series, they found out that, okay, they feel that there are 5 bugs on this, so they created this. Now it's up to me, like once in a week or once in a couple of days, I have to go through these issues and understand if there are genuine issues or not, right? So that is what a developer does here. One from the development team goes here and tries to triage, because this is a very generic one that I have, or this is a tutorial that I'm trying to explain. There are less number of issues, but on a real application, you might have some hundreds of issues. And similarly, development team, they might not have a single microservice. So they might have multiple microservices or multiple repositories. So this can be 100, 200, 300. And every time when they triage this issue, if the issue is not valid, so they can simply close the issue that is there. If the issue is valid, right? So they have to work on the particular issue. So to work on the particular issue, they have to track the amount of work that is required. They have to show the organization that, okay, these are the number of issues that we are working on. So what they need to do, they need to go to the Jira dashboard, and they need to create ticket on the Jira dashboard. Now this is so much work for the development team. This is basically operations work, right? They have to log into the Jira board, right? They have to provide all the details, usually on the GitHub repository itself. So if you look at this particular person, he has already provided the information. Now developer has to copy paste it or manually enter all the details. Instead, they will come to the DevOps team and seek the help, where they will ask the DevOps team, right? Hey, DevOps team, can you automate this for me? Right? And this is what I have shown you. What did I do? I have automated this entire process, where, there are 2 parties. One is GitHub. Second is Jira. So these are the 2 parties. And the automation, what it needs to do. So whenever someone comments on the Jira, ticket has to be automatically created here. So what I did is, they need to be a bridge between both of these things, right? So there needs to be a bridge, and using this bridge, when someone comments on the Jira issue saying that a Jira ticket is needed, only then Jira has to be created here. So to write that logic, what I'll do is, I'll choose programming language Python. I cannot choose shell scripting here, right? Because there are APIs involved, and this is very dynamic in nature. The server where you want to write this can be a Windows machine, this can be a Linux machine, and there are very good modules that are available in Python to do this. So Python is the better option. Now what I'll do is, firstly, I'll ask GitHub, whenever someone writes that comment called /Jira, hey GitHub, I have created a Python application and I have hosted it on EC2 instance. Why don't you send me a webhook? Understand this carefully. So here I will configure a webhook in GitHub, where I'll tell GitHub through the webhook that, okay, if someone comments /Jira on this particular repository, okay, so using this webhook, send me all the information of that particular issue. That means send me the description of the issue, who has created this issue, when did they create, what did they create, everything that you see on this board right now, right? Each and every minute detail, this entire UI thing is converted into a JSON format. You don't have to do anything here, right? GitHub automatically does this for you. All that you need to do is you need to go to the repository and you have to just provide GitHub the URL where it has to send the JSON information. So it will send JSON information for the Python application that we have. And now what we will do, we will take this JSON information, what are the required fields from it, like the description or whatever is required, and we will make an API call to Jira. So there are two parts to it, right? So the first part, so if you say GitHub and if you say Jira, I'll split this into two parts. This is part one, let's say, and this is part two, for example. Okay. So in the part one, what is the automation that is required? First of all, you will create an EC2 instance and you will write your Python application. And what part one does is, as a DevOps engineer, you will configure GitHub saying that, okay, send me this particular information. Don't worry, I'll show you each and every minute configuration. You don't have to worry anything. You will get all the configuration that is required and you will also get the Python script. So you can practice it at your end. Now, part one is you will configure a webhook. This webhook tells GitHub that, okay, just keep watching for this particular command called /Jira. Whenever you find that comment, okay, so in the webhook configuration, DevOps engineer has provided you URL for the Python application. What you need to do is just provide a JSON for the Python application. So in part one, we are receiving JSON. And in part two, what we are doing is we are sending JSON, or where we are making a API call with Jira and we are creating the Jira ticket. So what I am going to do is I'll split this entire thing into two videos, right? Because if you want to implement it and if you are a newbie, it will be very difficult to understand the entire flow in just one video, because we will talk about Flask application, how to write Flask application. We will talk about HTTP protocols. We will talk a lot of technical details. So I'll split this into two videos. Today is video number one. And in today's video, we will learn how to set up Jira, which is, like a couple of minutes work. Then I'll show you how to understand the API documentation of Jira, right? I can tell you if something has the best API documentation, and if you are beginner to Python, Jira is the best thing because they have super cool documentation for you to understand the APIs, which you will come to know, right? So you will understand how to install Jira, set up Jira. You will understand how to make API calls with Jira. Then I'll show you how to write this Python script. Unlike the previous videos, we will not use any modules. We will use the request module, and using request module, I'll show you how to make that API call. And finally, after this Python script, I'll show you, how to execute this particular thing, because during the execution, there are some details such as how to choose the fields for the Jira board and everything. This is as part of today's video. And as part of tomorrow's video or the next class, we will learn, like we wrote the Python script here. But what's interesting is we have to convert this Python script into a Flask application. Why? You will learn tomorrow. You cannot directly use the Python script. We will convert that into a Flask application. We will learn how to host it on EC2. Probably most of you already know it. And finally, we will learn how to set up the GitHub webhook for it. This is going to be the part two. So this is part one and part two. Now let's try to understand the part 1 part today, where the first step will be, let's write the algorithm, right? What is the first step for us? First step is Jira setup. Second step is understand Jira API calls, how to make API calls with Jira. Third step is write the Python script. Fourth step is execution of this script, right? So what I will do is, instead of just explaining how to create Jira, I'll show you couple of examples. One is, we will try to list all the projects that are there in Jira. We will try to list the issues. And finally, we will try to understand how to create issue or ticket in Jira. So this is, again, I am trying to repeat. This is very, very important because these are some real-time tasks that you do as DevOps engineer, and you will get the complete understanding if you watch this video till the end. Cool. Now let me close this. I think we are good with the whiteboard part. Let's try to understand how to set up Jira. So Jira gives you, I'm taking an incognito window because I already have Jira. So just search for Jira and you will get this Atlassian link called Try Jira for free. Click on this. So this is the Atlassian dashboard that you have. And if you want to use up to 10 users, then there will not be any charge. You can set it up for yourself. Just sign in, right? I'll show you by signing in. Although I have a Jira dashboard. So what I'm going to do is I'll click on this thing, right? And here, what I will try to do is provide my email address, right? Let me provide one of my email addresses and click on the next button. So I have signed up. Now, it's asking me to create an account. Click on the create account, right? So as soon as you do it, you will see that an account is created for you. This is the Atlassian account. Click on Jira software. So, Atlassian has a lot of products, but our focus is to try Jira. So click on get it for free. Now, click on the next button. It does not ask you for any credit card details or anything. And you have your Jira dashboard set up. Just provide your email address and what should be your Jira site name, where I can simply say something like Abhishek Jira or whatever you would like to, right? So if that name is not taken, it will give you, or else you can just say Abhishek Jira 1, 2, 3, 4. Agree. And a Jira dashboard is set up for you. So this is going to be your Jira dashboard on which you are going to play. Skip. You will see, once you try to create a project, you will see, do you want a Kanban project, Scrum, top level planning, bug tracking? So better go with Scrum because it's very simple, right? So choose the Scrum template and say which template you would like to use. I don't want to change anything. So let me say, select a team managed project. Provide the name for your project. Let me say this as again Abhishek, and click on the next button. Click on go to your project and you have the Scrum board here. So this is the Jira board that you have created. If you want to go through the quick start guide or something, I don't want to go through the quick start. Now our task is to create Jira tickets on this, try to play and try to automate this particular dashboard, right? So because I already have a dashboard, let me close this and go back to the one that I am already using. So this is the dashboard that I have. And once you have your dashboard, the first thing that you do is, I have explained this previously also. Whenever you want to talk to an application, right? Jira is an application or a SaaS solution, anything, there are two ways. One is you interact with it through the API, or the other is we interact it with the CLI. Now we are learning Python. We want to programmatically talk to the applications. where API is the solution. So to learn how to make API calls with Jira, first thing that you need to do is you need to have a API token, right? So let's learn how to create API token. What is API token? It's nothing but like, when you want to log into your Instagram, Facebook or anything, you would use the user interface. You would provide the username and password, right? But when you are using APIs, for better security, go with the API tokens where you can manage these API tokens. It's just like a password, but these tokens you can, provide RBAC on this particular tokens. You can timely delete these tokens. For one particular service account, you can create multiple API tokens and you can play with it. So now let's go to the dashboard and learn how to create the API token. Without the API token, you cannot make API call to it. So first thing is go to the profile, and within the profile, manage your account. Click on the security button, right? And in the security, you have, if you watch carefully, let me increase the font. You have the API token section where create and manage API tokens. Click on this particular thing. Like I have already created an API token. Because you don't have, what you can do is you can click on this create API token and provide a label as I have provided. Just for the reference, what is this API token to understand? I've provided the label as Python. You can also create your API token. Done. So once you have the API token, you are almost set. Now you need to understand how to talk to the Jira APIs, like which modules in Python you have to use and on which URL you should access this Jira. What is the context root, right? Because in Jira, you have a lot of things. You can create issues, right? Or you can create bugs. You can add comments. You can do a lot of things. And programmatically also, you can do all of these things. So you should go to the Jira API documentation. So this is the Jira API documentation page. All that I did is just search for Jira API docs, nothing more than that, right? So you will get this particular page, and on this page, you will have each and everything. Let's start with something very, very simple, right? So we just created a project called Abhishek. So let's try to see if we can list the projects using Jira. So without going to the Jira dashboard and trying to understand what are the projects that are available on my Jira board, I have two projects. You can understand it as two development teams which are using two projects, for example. Now I want to list both of this. I want to understand how many projects are there without using the UI. So what I'll do, this is a very simple one to start with. So what I'll do is I'll just go to the API documentation, search for projects. You will find this, expand it, get all projects, where I'm just trying to list the projects. And why did I say Jira is the best place to start if you're learning programming or if you're learning how to make API calls? Because it already gives you a lot of information. If you want to do it using shell scripting, this is how you do it. If you want to do it using Java, this is the sample code that you have. Today I want to try with Python. So, what I can do is I can simply copy this thing. Of course, you have a button on the top where you can just click on this, but sometimes it's not working as expected when I was doing the demos. That's why I just copy pasted it. Now you can go to your code spaces environment, right? Or you can use your personal laptop. Doesn't matter. You can use anything. We will use the API token that we have generated, and we will try to make the API call with the sample code snippet that is provided to us, right? So let's wait for the code spaces to start, because in today's video, I'll be using code spaces environment. But you can use your personal laptop, easy to instance, whatever you would like to. So I'll create under this day 14 folder, I'll say the first program that I want to write, right? So I'll say examples, create a new folder called examples. And inside that examples folder, the first Python file that I want to try, program that I want to try is list projects. So I'll call it as listprojects.py. Okay. So this is the code that I have copied from Jira documentation, and see, it has provided us literally everything. Now, what I just need to do is best, I'll explain you the code. I'll walk through the code, but to execute this program, all that I need to do is just replace this particular URL with the URL that I have, atlassian.net. And where is this? Perfect. So I have replaced this particular thing. And then in the HTTP basic authentication, you just have to provide your email address. So let me provide the email address that I have. And then in the API token, just provide the API token that you have created. So of course, I'm going to delete this entire board. So it doesn't matter if I share the API token, right? Because after this demo, I'm going to delete the entire board. So what is my API token? In your case, you can get the API token from the Jira board. I've just shown you how to do it. So let me access my API token. I've stored it here. The better practice is, I mean, because you are just starting with it, right? I'm pasting my API token here. But the better practice is read this API token as environment variable. We learned in the previous classes how to read environment variables and command line arguments, right? So tomorrow's class, when we enhance this program, we will also do that. We will read this through an environment variable so that it's more secure. Even if someone accesses your code, they will not understand. And when I upload this program, I'll remove this API token. You need to replace it with yours. So here I'll just say API token. That should be it. Now I can simply switch to day 14 folder. Now you will realize, why did I say Jira is one of the simplest things to learn the API automation. So if I just execute Python list projects.py, of course, you will see if there are any dependencies that are not installed here, it will say you don't have the Python dependency. In such cases, we will install. If these things are already available on my code spaces environment, you will see the output. You might say that, Abhishek, the output that is given to me, right, is a very lengthy one. I just asked it for the projects. But what Jira returns you back is this entire thing that you see, right? Of course, you asked it only for the projects, but for each project, it will give you all the details, not just the project name. That's where the JSON handling comes into picture, which we have learned in the last classes. So what you can do is, as a person who is learning, you can go back and, you can literally copy this entire thing. Okay. Copy this entire thing. Go to any JSON formatter, online tools that are available for you, right? And, you can just say beautify, and you will see that what exactly it returned is two projects. Basically, it gave you a list because you have asked for list of projects. And what you will get back in Python, you will get a list data type. And in list data type, you basically have two elements. This is element number 1 and this is element number 2. Now you must be understanding, why did I explain so much? Why did I stress so much on the fundamentals? We took 10 classes to understand the fundamentals. Each and every data type we understood. We did some assignments. People who did that will find these classes very, very simple. If you are directly jumping to the project section, then yeah, you might find some difficulty here. If you are learning Python through our course from the starting, you will not find this difficulty. So this is a list that is written back. And in the list, there are two elements, element 1 and element 2. That is, this is element with index 0 and this is element with index 1. Now, if you look at this particular element, right, Where is the project name? Project name is somewhere here, right? This is the project name. So to access, if I just want to print the project name of this particular element, what I can do is I can go back to my program. They try to use some keywords here. So I'll just replace this entire thing. And what I'll do is, take the response, or I'll say output is equals to JSON dot loads. Why are we using JSON dot loads here? I have explained in the last class also. In Python, when we try to parse the JSON information, we have to convert the JSON to dictionary, and we can try to execute operations on the dictionaries. So for that, we use JSON dot loads. And here, what I'll try to do is I'll say response dot text. Okay. And on this particular thing, we need to just say name is equals to output of 0 of name. Okay, I hope that is right. Let's see. Oh, sorry, I did not print the name, right? So let me again say print name. Perfect. So it says the first project that we have here is with name Abhishek. Let's see if that is correct or not. I'm finding it difficult to move through the tabs. So where exactly is this? Sorry. Yeah. So the first project that we have is with name Abhishek, and the second project is with the name My Scrum project. Let's also see that. So if we go back to this particular script, and if we change element with index 1, we should see My Scrum project. And if you want to print both of them, you all know you can write a simple for loop, and you can print both index of 0 and index of 1. That is, just traverse through the list and print both index 1 and index 2. Sorry, index 0 and index 1. Perfect. So now this tells you how easy it is to integrate a Python script with Jira, because almost the code is given to you by Jira itself. And not just in Python, it gives you in shell scripting, Node.js, Java, each and everything. Now let's try to understand what this code is. Of course, we got the entire code, but let's try to understand. So basically, what we are trying to do is we are trying to use the request module. We learned in previous classes, request module is used to make API calls. When we try to do automation with other applications, we might not use this request module. That depends on the application to application. For example, when we want to talk to AWS, there is Boto 3, which does a lot of heavy lifting for us. But Jira modules are not as stable as the AWS modules. So that's why we will use the standard module that we have, that is the request module. And the next line that we have, as I've explained in the packages class, so we have imported a particular package, but from that package we want to use this particular module, that is HTTP basic authentication. So you want to authenticate with Jira, because if you don't authenticate with Jira, like if anybody in the world tries to make an API call with your particular application, Jira should not give you the output. Only valid user with valid API token should be able to access. So that's where we will use the basic HTTP authentication. Because we are also using JSON, we have used the JSON module, because I'm doing JSON.loads. So you need to import that as well. Now we took the URL, we took the API token, and we just performed the request as shown in the documentation. This is a very simple script. Now let's try to write the script which is required for us, that is script to create Jira ticket. Okay. Now, meanwhile, let me remove the API token so that when I commit this entire thing, you will not see the API token. Similarly, I'll remove the email address as well. Perfect. Now, this is what I have. This is the code that I will submit. Now, let me create one more thing. that is called create jira.py. Okay. So better to use the underscore, but that's okay. So create hyphen jira.py. And now what I'll do is I'll go back to the Jira documentation, right? And what I want to do now is create an ticket or an issue. So search for issue. In Jira, tickets are basically called as issues, right? So we will search for issues here. So again, expand this section, create issue. Similarly, you will find the entire code. Just copy paste this thing. But the only change that is going to be, right? I'll copy paste this entire thing. But the only change that I will notice, see, when you create a Jira ticket, like if we go through the Jira dashboard as well, if we try to manually create it through the UI, click on the create tab. You have bunch of fields, like there are 20, 30 fields that are available, and each of the field, some of them are mandatory, some of them are not mandatory, right? So what the Jira documentation provides you is all the mandatory and non-mandatory fields. Okay. So here, when you want to create a ticket with Jira, that is, here, it gives you all the fields that are available. Just like when you want to create an EC2 instance, you have a lot of fields, but only some of them are mandatory. Similarly with Jira also, when you want to create issue, right? So if you look at this payload, Jira is taking entire information from us. Like it is saying in the Python script that you are writing, provide this entire information. But we know everything is not mandatory, right? That's why I'm saying you need to have idea on the product before you automate it. It's not that Python, API, so you can automate it. First, you need to have knowledge on it, whether it is AWS, whether it is any platform. First, you need to know how it works through the UI. So what are the mandatory things here? Let's see. Project name is mandatory. Issue type is mandatory. Summary is mandatory. Reporter is mandatory. That's it. There are only 4 fields that are important. In that also reporter, because we are using the API token, Jira automatically knows who is the reporter. But the 3 mandatory fields here are project, issue type, and summary. Let's only keep them and remove everything else because the program looks much easier for us. So what I'll do is I'll remove this particular section called assignee. It is not required. I'll remove this particular section called component. It is not required. All these custom fields are not required. Let me remove this particular custom field, not required. Remove. I'm just trying to use the ID advantage here. Just click on this particular bracket and it will show the closing bracket. Remove the entire thing. This particular custom field, not required. This is not required. Description is required, right? So I'll keep this description, and in the description I'll say my first Jira ticket. Okay. Again, outside description, you don't need this due date, remove it. Environment, I don't really need this environment, so let me remove this as well. Fixed version, not needed, remove. And then comes the issue type. Issue type is required field, which we saw. But here, if you see, it is asking for the ID. How do you get the ID? Just go here, and here I am trying to create a story. And when I'm trying to create a story, it is giving me this particular field called as story. But in the API call, it is asking me for the ID of this particular story. So we need to fetch not the name, but the ID of it. What you need to do is you need to click on this particular icon that you see and say configure board. And here you have the section called issue types. Click on it. And let's say you want to create story. Click on the story, and in the URL, you will see the issue type ID. I know this is complicated, but this is how I figured out how to get it. If you know any other easy way, then let me know. I read through the documentation also. I did not find much. So this is how I get the issue type ID and replace this one because I want the actual issue type ID. And labels I don't need. Priority is not required. Project, instead of project ID, you can give key, and key is AB. When we created the project, you must have noticed, like this is the project that I've created, for example, Abhishek, and in brackets, you see something called AB, right? This is my project key. So use that as a project key. Reporter, you can keep as is or just remove the reporter because anyways, you're using the API token thing. And I don't need this security. I can remove in the summary. Summary is required where I can say first Jira ticket. And then I don't need this tracking part. Coming to the versions, let me remove and let me keep this the same thing. Okay. Now here on this particular board where we are trying to create, let me show you. I just have one item in the backlog, right, which we created at the starting of the video. Now we should see two items, right? If we execute this program, let's see if that happens or not. So I'll say Python create jira.py. Specify a valid project ID or key. My bad. We got that error because we did not update these details. Sorry for that. So we can copy this thing again from the URL itself. And let's go back, replace it, provide the email address, and then provide the API token. So let's do the same thing. So I'll just say API token is equals to the API token that I've created at the beginning of the video. I've copied it. So let me paste this here. And replace this with the API token. Perfect. Now I'll try to execute this project. Python create jira.py. And now it should create a ticket. Let's go back and see on the board here. We should see a new ticket AB-14 and it says first Jira ticket. So that's it. Now we have created a Jira ticket. We learned how to interact with the APIs. Isn't it very, very easy? Yes, it is. So in this, all the applications that we try to use and the API references, Jira is the most easiest thing because it provides a lot of information for you through the documentation, right? So we will learn the part 2 in tomorrow's video where we will understand how to convert this application into Flask framework and integrate with GitHub webhooks. So that's going to be part 2. So before that, I hope everyone would try this and practice it from their end. See you all till the next video. Take care.